Karen Burniston, the designer of Pop-It-Ups products for Elizabeth Craft Designs. And today I'll be teaching how to make this. A pop-up Thanksgiving card featuring Cheepers the chicken styled as a turkey and the Props 9 witch's hat styled as a pilgrim's hat. The pop-up die I'll be using is one of my favorites. It's very generic. It's called the Lorna Label, number 915. You can make it into a vertical card like you see in the packaging, and it also works great as a horizontal card. And for an added technique, I'm going to make mine into a window card. So I've decided to use double-sided pattern paper, and I've cut a 12 by 12 piece down into two pieces. An A2 backing card, that's 4 1/4 by 11, and then my inner card where the pop-up's going to be is a little bit smaller, so that's 4 by 10 3/4, and in both cases I scored them right up the middle for folding. So now I'm going to cut the pop-up into that inner card. So this die has alignment nubs, and I'm going to use temporary tape to hold that in place so those nubs are right over the fold of the card. And then I just need to roll that through a die cutting machine. Any major die cutting machine will cut Pop-It-Up dies. I'm using a Sizzix Big Shot today. After die cutting, it's just a matter of carefully removing the die from the paper. It will have done all the cutting and the scoring to make the pop-up. The Lorna Label is a pretty easy one to train. If you just find the center fold in both directions, the idea is to find the long fold along the bottom of the first pop-up box right there. And if you can get your thumbs or fingers inside the box and then find a position where it's easy to press that fold, that's the best place to get started. Now you're going to go all the way up to where the other fold is across the back wall. And that's a little bit shorter fold, but it's the same motion. Get behind it, find where it's connected to the card, and give it a little press. So from the side here you can see there's only one more fold. It's kind of the other end of the box, and those are really short folds. And if you can kind of get those started, from here it's pretty easy now. In fact, I like to do this on the table, to grab the label and just pull it forward into the card as you close the card, and that way you know that pop-up's coming all the way fully forward into the card. And that is all there is to it. You can see now it's been trained. That could be a vertical card like this, or how I'm going to use it today is actually as a horizontal card. The backing card is then what will stiffen up the card as well as cover up the hole that's been left by the pop-up. And so that's just a matter of adding some nice strong double-sided tape on the flat parts of each side. The fold goes right in the fold of the backing card, and get that installed. The Lorna Label comes with several little accessory dies, including this nice big label, decorator label that will fit on that pop-up. And what I'd like to do is use that die to cut the window in the front of the card that will line up with the pop-up in the flat position. So to be able to do that, what I need to do is lay the die blade side up, and I've also added some temporary tape underneath it so that as I lay it on top of the pop-up and then close the card, if I give it a good press, it will transfer that die now to the other side of the card in the exact correct position to be able to cut the window. Now, since my pop-up is already installed, I'm going to want to definitely stop my cutting pad just past that die and only roll it through the machine enough to cut the die. So I don't want to squish down my pop-up by rolling it through the machine. So I'll just roll far enough until I get to the end of the die and then back the same direction. So swap out the colors and the theme, and you can use this window technique for anything. It's just a great all-purpose generic pop-up idea. And then I want to go ahead and frame my window opening on both sides. So I've taken a piece of maroon cardstock, added some of the Elizabeth Craft Designs double-sided adhesive to the back of the cardstock, and then what I'll do is I'll just use the pop-up die again, but this time just the label portion, nest in that same decorator label and cut those at the same time, thereby making a nice little frame for around the window. So all I need to do with my scissors is to trim the pop-up part where it's connected so that it's now just a standalone frame. And then because I used the double-sided adhesive on the back, it's just a sticker, and I can line it up and put that right over the opening on the front of the card. And then I'll just repeat that exact same process to make another frame for the inside opening. So now I'm going to work on the turning Cheepers the chicken into a turkey and turning the witch's hat into a pilgrim hat and working on the pumpkin. And when you have lots of little tiny die cut pieces like this, it's such a great thing to use the Elizabeth Craft Designs double-sided adhesive on the back of the cardstock to turn everything into a sticker. So here's what I'm die cutting. From the craft cardstock, I've got the detail layer from Cheepers and the solid party hat from Props 2. From Cheepers, I also have his yellow feet and beak, his white eyes, and his red little comb part at the top of his head. From Props 9, I've done the hat band out of orange and the buckle out of yellow. And then from Halloween Charms, I've done the solid pumpkin charm out of orange, and then the green pieces, which is the vine and the stem. I love this method because it's such a time saver in both the die cutting part, because I can die cut so many pieces at one time, and then also from the assembly part because everything now is a sticker. Now I'm not going to use double-sided adhesive on the back of my black cardstock, just so I don't have to worry about any stray adhesive if parts of him hang off the edges. So I'm going to cut a shadow layer for Cheepers the chicken first, and then for the witch's hat, I'm going to stop the cutting pad short. So I'm just going to have the cutting pad cover kind of the brim of the hat, and I don't want it to cut the pointy top because I'm going to change that out to look like a pilgrim's hat. And that's easy enough to do by just using scissors, and I'll just start where the cut left off. I'm going to cut straight up and then over and then back down again. So just putting kind of a square top to the hat will really convert it. And then I'm going to go ahead and embellish that with the hat band and the buckle that come with the witch's hat set. And that buckle is designed with slits in it so that you can slide it onto the hat band. Since those are both stickers, I can just peel up the adhesive and put that right directly on the hat. And then from there, if I need to make any further adjustments, maybe I want that to be a little bit shorter or a little bit less wide so that it matches the width of the hat band, I can do that now with my scissors. So with the character dies, and Cheepers is no exception, you start with the shadow layer die and then you put on all the pieces for the character from there. So I've started with Cheepers' little feet, and with that shadow layer, all of the detail pieces are a little bit smaller so that they will leave that little shadow of black around the outside. Now on that detail layer die, it cuts both the main body of Cheepers but also an extra little wing. So you need to make sure you haven't lost that little wing in the die cutting process. There's also a tail for Cheepers. It's kind of in the middle of his face there when it's die cut. You don't need it for this particular conversion because he's becoming a turkey. So I'm actually going to cut off the shadow layer at the top of his head and where his tail would normally be. A signature feature to all of the characters in my collection are their eyes. They have a cartoon type of look, and when you cut them, there's a little cutout so that when you spin them around, you actually can have the character looking in different directions. And I'm also going to add Cheepers' beak. So Cheepers comes with this die that cuts the comb for the top of his head as well as a little wattle. And what I'm going to do is take the comb piece and cut it down so that it can be the snood. And if you think I knew that, of course I did not. I had to Google that to find out what that thing is called that goes across a turkey's beak. And it is apparently called a snood. So I'm using another hat to make the turkey feathers, and that is the solid hat from Props 2, and I've cut 4 of them. They all have the double-sided adhesive on the back. And the first thing I'm going to do is use the die itself as a stencil to get a stripe put on each feather. I'm using a white gel pen for that. And then I'm going to fill it in with a pen that's kind of a maroon color. And I'll repeat that 3 more times so that I have 4 of those little pie-sliced feather pieces. Then all I'm going to do is just peel up the liner and stick those down onto a piece of black cardstock, kind of keeping about the same distance of black between them and on the outside as would normally be for the shadow layer of the character so that it will kind of match. And I'm just going to use my scissors for this. So I just need to cut, like I said, around the outside, leaving about the same distance as with the rest of the character. So to complete the turkey, I just need to glue the body piece now over the feather piece, and there he is. And of course, I'm going to add a hat today. That's part of the hats challenge, but he would also look cute without a hat, so you could definitely do him either way. For the pumpkin, I've added the vine and the stems, which had the double-sided adhesive, and then I'm just going to draw in a few detail lines using an orange pen. My turkey is the main embellishment for on the pop-up, and I kind of want to place him with the card closed so that I can reach down through that window and really make sure that he's centered in a position that I like. You know, I don't really have a large leaf die in my collection, but what I did have were these already laser cut leaves from Creative Impressions. And if you are ever wondering about any of the supplies that I use in my videos, you can definitely check the About box for some links or the blog post. And I think before I start adding leaves, I'm going to weave some ribbon through the box on the inside of the card and then bring it around and tie it in a bow on the front of the card. And then what I can do is tie on a couple of my leaves. They have those little holes at the end, so I can go ahead and tie those on with a piece of twine, and that'll be a great front decoration. And then in the lower right corner, I'm just going to add a couple more leaves. I'll put a little pop dot under one of my pilgrim hats, add one of my pumpkins. Perfect. One thing that can look really cool is on the inside, I can put leaves on the pop-up portion, and then they'll move over kind of in front of the turkey in the closed position, and then they'll move out of the way as you open the card. So very similar decorations inside the card. More of those leaves, added another pumpkin and a pilgrim hat. I had the stamp gratitude in my stash, so I stamped and embossed that on one of the small labels from the Lorna set. You will find a lot of hats inspiration by the team by visiting the blog post if you're not there already. There is a little information circle in the upper right corner of this video. You can click that and head straight to the blog. You can like me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Karen Burniston Designer, where I post daily inspiration. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel, and you'll always find more ideas on my blog, KarenBurniston.com. Thanks for watching.